It's Friday. I wanted it to be a little bit lighter. We talk about politics all week, and I am so proud and just so overjoyed to introduce to the SiriusXM Urban View family, my girl, my sis, my friend, Erica Savage Wilson, who is going to talk to us about her podcast, The Reframed Brain. Erica, welcome to the show.
Thank you
beautiful.
So much.
Hey, beautiful you.
Hey, gorgeous one. Thank you so much for having me, Reece. What's up, Clay Kane Nation? Shout out to Clay Kane and the production crew.
Well, look, we are going to talk about your podcast, but I would be remiss if I didn't interject with this moment. Clay, he always, what is it? Clay say, I ain't never really gone. Clay sent me a text about with the picture of President Biden flanked on both sides. One side had Vice President Kamala Harris. The other side has the new Supreme Court nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. That is an image for your ass, y'all. Woo! I know them haters is mad. Them haters is so mad right now to see two of the soon-to-be most powerful Black women to have ever held these positions in the history of the United States. Erica, wait, one more thing. And she got sister locks too. So this is a, if you're a Black woman and you got some sister locks, you are winning today. You might have won all of Black History Month, okay? Erica, as a fellow sister locked woman, what is your response?
Listen, so I came by way of that information on your Instagram. And when I tell you the shout that I let out, it was, I think I kind of woke up a couple of people. It made me feel good because I remember you sent a tweet around this Black History Month just doesn't seem to be given. Yeah. And what a real blessing to be right at the tail end to have this beautiful chocolate judge whose name is a name that people are going to have to make sure that they are pronouncing correctly, right. The same way that you would be on people about, it's not Kamala, it's not all of these different type of ways that people wanted to pronounce Madam Vice President's first name. It is Kamala. So I love there's so much that's being given in this moment. What an incredible time to be alive.
Yes. And Black women winning today. Yes. And you know what was funny to me, because during the campaign, there were people who said, well, we don't need a Black woman vice president because Biden said, he's going to appoint a SCOTUS, Black woman SCOTUS. And I said, oh, hell no, both of them. I want both. Why we got to take just one? We're going to get a Black woman vice president and we're going to get a Black woman Supreme Court justice. And we are getting it. Getting a lot of getting this good. Hey, look, okay. And it happened in the first 2 years. We have a Democratic majority in the Senate. So she's going to be confirmed. This is a beautiful, 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 beautiful day for Black folks. I'm just rejoicing in it. I'm basking in it. And I'm just so thrilled for that and to have you. So callers, feel free to call in with your reaction. And before you call in talking about she got a white husband, she got a white husband. Okay. But so what? So what? She's still a Black woman. She's still standing in that. And we are going to rejoice the history that is being made, period. Amen. But 866-801-8255, you're going to want to hear what Erica has to say and call in on that. I'm going to get to one quick call, Erica, before we get to the podcast. Ron from Indiana, go on ahead with your comment, and then we're going to change the topic. Ain't going to be no more Ukraine stuff.
Okay, I'm going to be real quick because I want to congratulate the new Supreme Court justice also. Yes, I think it's just great, historically great. But on the thing about Ukraine and all the, like you say, you want to cut through the conspiracy and all that, the bottom line is that Putin wants to reestablish the old Soviet Union. Now, even and his paranoia about Ukraine is based on what our battle plan or plan of battle was when I was in the military years ago. And that was, we always expected those satellite countries that Russia had just rolled into and established their authority to break away from the Soviet Union and help us in the fight against the former Soviet Union if war was ever declared, and it didn't turn into nuclear. So I see his paranoia, but he's not going to win this battle. Period.
Right.
Because he'll never be able to take over the minds and hearts of the Ukrainian people. And the only thing that I think, and believe me, I'm not a war hawk. I spent most of my adult life in the military, in the airborne infantry, but I'm not a war hawk because I've seen what war does to young men and women. But I think the only thing that NATO did wrong in this was, out of all these secret meetings that they were holding, they should have held a secret meeting, voted Ukraine into to NATO, and moved troops into that area, and Putin would have backed off, guaranteed. Russian soldiers are scared of U.S. combat soldiers. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron, for your call. And actually, Erica is a veteran. So I've been saying I ain't equipped when Erica's sitting right here. So Erica, I don't know, I might have to call on you for getting more calls. But do you have anything to say on this real quick before we talk about the podcast? If not, girl, we could go right to the podcast. It's either way with me.
What I will say is that I can, from some of the memory that I have been able to recall, I can remember plainly the annexation of Crimea in 2014, and how that was a moment that was very telling at that time. And to really just kind of add on to what the other caller said, there was something that we would say in the military is that only the dead have seen the end of war. I believe that the diplomatic measures that President Biden, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris are taking are what we would want to see. These are efforts that you want to see. And I mentioned on yesterday, I have spent time in a foreign country as an emissary, talking with presidents, first vice presidents, folks that are working on the ground in government, security directorates. And whatever the end is, you always want to make sure that the steps that you are taking has the long game in mind. So I think it would behoove all of us, and I'll wrap it at this, to be more geopolitically astute. Listening to programming like this, having on experts like Nola Haynes definitely helps us. But when we go to other countries, we find out that people not only know about the politics of their country, but surrounding countries and that of the United States. So whether or not you travel outside of the country, please be more in tune with not what's just happening in your neighborhood and in your world, though there is a lot, to be also very, very aware of what is happening on our borders and outside of our borders as well.
Very wise advice. And I think that we're going to be forced to do that, because this is going to impact us in a way that I think is not clicking. It's not clicking yet. What I'm going to take a quick break because I want us to have an uninterrupted discussion. Because I know how brilliant you are. And I know that if we break it up, people ain't going to, I want the full Erica experience. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back with Erica Savage Wilson, the brain injury champion who has a podcast that everybody should be listening to called The Reframed Brain. Clay Kane Show. Be right back.
You're listening to The Clay Kane Show.
It's your girl, Reecie Colbert, filling in from my guy, Clay Kane. You know, he ain't never really gone. On SiriusXM Urban View, The Clay Kane Show. Thank you all for listening in. We had a brilliant, lengthy Q&A with Nola Haynes, foreign policy and national security expert. And I'm so thrilled to be joined now to have a great discussion about how we can reframe our brain with the wonderful Erica Savage Wilson, who is founder and host of the Reframed Brain podcast. Hey, Erica.
Hey, Reecie. Hey, Clay Nation.
That's my line. Hey, Clay Nation. It has such a nice ring when you say it. Okay, Erica. I know your story. I know you. But for the audience listening, give them a little bit of background about you and how your Reframed Brain podcast came about.
Great. So I spent several years engaged in politics, both on the state, local, on the local, the state, and the federal level. And was working actively as a director at a political consulting and data management firm. So we had a very busy year, of course, in 2020 with the general election, worked very closely with folks with the Georgia senatorial election. And then we were diving into some COVID work, specifically around access for people in rural areas. And so on March 15th, 2021, a very busy Erica Savage was going about her day traveling from here in the Metro DC area to Georgia to meet with the group and begin doing that work. And while traveling, I was interrupted in that travel, hit twice by an 18-wheel truck. That was on a Monday morning, March 15th, 2021. And the injuries that I sustained were a traumatic brain injury. The left side of my body was injured, the rotator cuff, left arm was unable to move it at all, left leg, back, and a host of other unseen injuries. And so, as I can probably put it in plainer terms, is what was described by my TBI practitioner, because I had two at that time, to say to my family and people that knew me that what you're essentially dealing with is no longer a high functioning executive who was doing media and working in politics, and then also my own platform, Savage Politics, but you are effectively dealing with a toddler. What had happened with my traumatic brain injury that I sustained was that the executive functioning part of our brain, which is the frontal lobe, that root system, well, the frontal lobe is what houses our reasoning, logic, allows us to process information, had been damaged. And so my responses were directly from my amygdala. That is that back part, the little small part in your brain. It's about the size of a pea, very, very tiny. That's in fight or flight. And that is not a place that humanly we're supposed to live in. That's the reptilian brain, that is the old brain. The frontal lobe is the new brain. That old reptilian brain keeps us, hey, we're in danger, we run. We don't sit and we reason, we run. Yeah. But I was operating solely out of my amygdala. So barely able to walk, very sensitive to light, auditory noises, unable to drive. I was unable to read for several months. And I had delayed speech that required speech pathology. So it was a transformative time in my life. And here we are, almost a year to the day, where I am able to read again. I'm able to walk again. And there are some tremendous gains that I've made, still having home health care, but tremendous gains that I've made since that time.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, just what you've been through to go from, like you said, high functioning to essentially having to build that up again from a toddler. I have a 10-month-old, and I love her to death, but I wouldn't want to become her, and so it's just absolutely extraordinary what you've overcome. And, from my perspective, and this is what I want you to kind of talk about a little bit too, I see the Erica I've always seen, regal, beautiful, that voice, that queen voice, and articulate and just really brilliant. And that's what I see on the outside. But I understand from what you've discussed and from your podcast that takes a lot more to do to present that way than it ever has before. So talk a little bit about how a traumatic brain injury is kind of a silent battle in some cases, and how much it takes to function that people don't necessarily really see.
I love that question that you asked, Reecie, because it is really the physical. That's what people see and operate from. It is the unseen, and that is the basis of the reframed brain. So if viewers can see, or maybe they can't see, listen by audio, but to my left and to my right, I keep two of my plants by me whenever I'm doing media. And that is because if I become overwhelmed, I'm able to slip my hand inside of the soil, and that immediately grounds me. So for me to do this to be engaged with the media takes the day before, ensuring that I know what I'm going to wear, ensuring that I have read over any pertinent material that I need to read over, ensures that the night before that I have gone through meditative exercises that will help to curb the anxiety that I feel. Some of the things that people don't see with traumatic brain injuries. And I remember I had a very faithful friend of mine, Sloan's, who made it her business for about 7 months. She would come over to the house every Friday and engage me. And she was the one that kind of took me out on my first outing to go to a restaurant, and there were accommodations made. And what people did not see is that she had to walk with, we had to hold hands when we walked, because I had to make sure that I felt very comfortable in walking, but that at that time also, I needed to have somebody that I felt very comfortable with, so that if anyone came within our space, that there could be that immediate person to say, give us a little space. So I was very, very needy at that time. Additionally, what people don't see with traumatic brain injuries is that when you go to a door, you know whether to push, pull, or to turn a knob. Well, for me, with a traumatic brain injury, I would walk up to a door and honestly draw a blank on how I was going to enter into that space. So those kind of mechanics where it's taking a little bit longer for me to figure out, okay, the door is not going to, this is a door. And to enter into the other side of that door, I'm going to need to pull that door open or push that door open or turn that knob. Also for me, with a traumatic brain injury, going out in public, as I talked about with my friend Sloan's, one of the things that I would have to have were my AirPods that I'm wearing now. The AirPods had either one or two playlists, a happiness playlist or my chill playlist, because I felt very anxious and threatened with other people around me, because my brain is wired around fight or flight. Someone may run into you. Someone may accidentally bump into you. There may be a car that'll jump out and hit you. All of these things that are running through the mind of a person with a traumatic brain injury. So some of the processes that we take for granted, like, okay, when you get up in the morning, if you get up and you go right into the bathroom and you brush your teeth and wash your face, for a person with a traumatic brain injury, it takes a little bit longer to resonate. Okay, this is me. I am in my home. Where is my home? Okay, the last place I lived was, okay, I'm here. I'm in bed. This is the bed that I'm in. It is all of that awareness, understanding where you are. Those are the kind of things that people don't see. And that also for me, now that I'm able to go to the market, I very rarely go to a checkout with another human. I would rather self-checkout. And that is because it keeps me from having to think about all of the different processes that goes into actually putting the groceries on top of the belt and what they do. And actually, it's going to take me a little bit longer sometimes if I'm paying by cash or card to go through the prompts to actually do that. So not feeling the pressure of you need to hurry up and check out, I'm going to actually have to go through that functionality by myself. So when I'm self-checking out for the few items that I have, it allows me space and time to say, okay, Erica, you're going to pay by card. Take your card out, put the card in, take a deep breath, and just read the screen very slowly and follow the prompts. And those are some of the unseen things that I still go through. I have a home healthcare aide that comes in still at this time. And one of the things that she does for me outside of light housekeeping is provide companionship, because there's some conversations that I'm able to have with her that are different that I'll have with other people that are even close to me, because they are a listening ear. And when she's able to take me places, I feel very safe because I have someone that I trust alongside me that's going to walk into that home building store, that's going to walk into that nursery so I can get another plant baby. It is another way to help me, number one, be more trusting. Number two, be used to being around more than one human when we go out in public. And then number three, just having that listening ear, having somebody who doesn't mind doing a puzzle with me, having somebody who's able to monitor me while I'm cooking on the stove to make sure I'm not walking away. So those are some of the unseen things that people don't see when I get up and I'm on a platform like the Clay Kane Show, or when I'm joining you on Roland Martin Unfiltered or anywhere else, the preparation that goes into being able to present into a person that they've already always seen, but that has some transformative change that's happened in their life.
Wow, that is really just extraordinary that, it takes that amount of deliberation that we just take for granted. And I mean, I'm sure, it makes me feel a lot more blessed about the fact that I'm always late and I'm always like rushing like 2 minutes to get ready. And I'm like, the Clayton K show music is coming on. I'm like adjusting my camera. So I would probably be a complete disaster. And, but it's beautiful though, because and one of the things I appreciate about your podcast, which I want you to talk about, is that you have developed a podcast that really gives people practical, methodical steps on reframing their brain, on taking more control of how they're operating in a better mental space, a better physical space. And now it's clicking the way that you just walk through the deliberate steps you have to take and the preparation you have to take. Why your podcast? It kind of, it gives that same flavor of practical steps, which resonates with me, because I need, I'm kind of a know-it-all sometimes, and I'm kind of like, I do what I want to do, but I also like being told what to do from somebody who's smarter than me and knows things that I don't know. So talk about, and we do have a call, Jeff from Denver, we'll get to you in a second, but talk about the podcast. First, start off, because before you forget, or before we get through this whole thing, how do people follow your podcast? And then talk about what your podcast is about and what people can take away from it.
Excellent. So if you'll go to the reframedbrain.com, it's about a 4 to maybe 5 second sign up. Right up under the Reframed Brain podcast, you'll see where my podcast is available on all different platforms. We also have a YouTube channel. That YouTube channel allows that visual component as well. So if you'll like and subscribe there, the reframedbrain.com. And the genesis of the Reframed Brain is really what it means. So it's a renewed perspective. And that is what I had to gain. That is what I had to come into. And what I'm understanding and what I've understood more and more going through this healing process is that we're actually all on a similar journey, maybe not to the same degree that myself or someone else that's suffering with a chronic illness, someone else who's accessing life through a chair. But we are all traversing in a healing way, because let's just take a moment and still ourselves. We are still in the throes of a global pandemic that is worldwide, seeing over 5 million people that have passed away specifically from COVID-19. And here within the United States, over 900,000 people have passed away just from COVID-19 alone. So through that, when I'm reading research, anxiety, stressors, worry, for some people, depression, and this whole other new disruption of sleep directly related to the pandemic, coronasomnia, people are experiencing that at varying rates. So we are all experiencing unseen injuries, the great resignation, where people are saying, listen, I don't even have anything lined up, but I can't take it. I don't feel well. There is a lot that's happening. So what the Reframed Brain does is says, okay, so you don't have to have a brain injury. As a person who has a brain compromising injury, what I do understand is that what people can't see, those things manifest in ways that are seen. So let me share with you, I'm not saying that, hey, here's a switch, turn off the pandemic. Hey, here's a switch. Just what Nola Haynes and Reecie were just discussing around Ukraine and Russia. Oh, just go and dance somewhere. It'll be okay. But to say that, listen, with all of those things that are happening, also, here are some very practical ways that you can create an environment of healing. And guess who that environment is? You are that environment. So when you turn on the Clay Kane show and you're listening from 1 to 3 p.m. about what is happening, world events, international events, that you'll be able to ingest that in a way, but you won't live in that space. So that is what the Reframe Brain seeks to do. And that information not only comes from me, but we have some excellent Black women practitioners that will be joining the pod here this next coming month, clinical scientists, licensed nurse practitioners, master yogis that will also really share some other ways that you can too renew your perspective and create a healing environment as well.
Yes. And I have to say, I've watched the episodes. I like to watch, I'm not a super podcasty kind of person. I know people might think that's weird, but I love to watch YouTube podcasts, and I love to watch yours. That's how I receive it. And it just really is great because, as you said, there's something for all of us because all of us are sharing a traumatic experience of a pandemic. It's less traumatic for some to others. Some people outside living their best life. I ain't mad at you if that's you, but a lot of us, I'm in year 2 because I got pregnant. I was at home. I'm still at home with my baby. I'm gonna be a little bit outside next week, and I have to mentally prepare myself for that. But we all are all going through stuff, being Black in America and having to deal with just everything that we're bombarded with. And now, if you are checked in, we got this whole Russia-Ukraine conflict that is going to impact us. I want to take a call. Jeff from Denver is on the line, and he has a comment for Erica. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Erica, you are amazing. Just absolutely amazing. Excuse me. I worked in surgery for 30 years. I was a surgical first assistant. I worked with none other than the great Dr. Ben Carson. Mm-hmm. So I've seen a lot of brains and a lot of people with injuries. You inspire me so much. And there are millions of people that you are inspiring right now, including the fact that, let's just look at this. I came from the housing projects of Baltimore, Maryland, to where I am today, 30 years ago. I took what everybody thought was my disadvantage and used it to my advantage. And so did you. You are absolutely amazing. Thank you. I'm on your podcast, just listening to you because you have tapped into parts of the brain that I forgot about. You don't have the flight, you have the fight. That's the part that took over. And you are amazing.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jeff. I bless you and honor you. Thank you so much for your warm sentiments. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff is a first-time caller, actually. I'm slipping on the first-time caller stuff, but I appreciate that because it just shows how much you touch people. And for people who follow me and follow you, they're like, okay, here she go, Erica again. Yes, every time I'm on somewhere that I can bring Erica on, I will have her because you're a magnificent person. And I think people have to hear what you have to say. It's such a blessing to just even listen to you. And we have another call from Michelle in Houston. Michelle, what do you have for Erica?
I just want to, hello ladies. I just want to tell Erica, thank you so much for sharing her story. I have a 19-year-old daughter. She lives every day with everything you describe with her life is everything that she lives every day. She didn't have a traumatic brain injury, but her brain disorder is called Chiari malformation. And she's had 2 brain surgeries. The last one first one when she was 5, and then the last one at the beginning of the pandemic. And I have a hard time trying to understand what she's going through, even though I understand it, if that makes sense. When you explain how difficult it is for you to do certain things that we all take for granted every day, and looking at her, she looks picture perfect. You would never know, and I forget that her brain is different. So when she walked up to a door, when you said that just broke my heart, because a lot of times she don't know what to do and she'll stand there. And then she'll say, oh, I just had a brain fog. I'm sorry, I forgot to turn the knob. And I was just like, what? Like, I know, but because it's been explained to me, but just to hear you say that, and it resonated that she's not alone. And she struggles, and she's in her first year of college now. And last week, she had a really difficult time. One, because she expected the class to be a few people, and it was 20-something people in the class, and which is small, right? But for her, it was too many people. And then she was the only Black student. So that brought up all her anxiety and the PTSD from what she's experienced in the past from racial discrimination. So it was just like, it was that meltdown after the class. She made it through the class, but then the meltdown after the class, and then throughout the entire night, it was horrible for her.
Yeah.
The anxiety.
And Erica, I want to be sensitive, because I know that, what you've discussed and how you have to process things and emotionally prepare for things. So let me know if this is a lot. We only have a couple more minutes, but let me know if you have to go. Just make sure, I want to make sure that I'm being sensitive, because I know that your story is so touching to so many people. And Michelle, thank you for your call. And yes, your daughter is not alone. And I think that's just the power of Erica, and why I wanted her on the show, to really tell people about the reframed brain, because there are people that are experiencing that sense of isolation. So we do have one more call. Erica, are you okay? You good?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
I am. Thank you, Michelle. Much love to your daughter.
Okay, so we have just 2 more minutes left in the show. So Leon, first time caller, can you keep it quick for Erica, and then we got to wrap it up.
Erica, for coming on, bringing this to light. I'm retired military personnel, and I have struggled with this TBI. And in the early stages of it, even my family did not understand it, and basically just threw me to the woods, taking it as, oh, nothing wrong with this individual. He looks in perfect shape from the physical standpoint of view, but mentally and emotionally, things are better for me now, but it's still an everyday learning plight for me. I can recall being like at the 4th of July holidays, people out shooting fireworks, and I'd have, and that is a very bad time of the year for me. Oh, those are just fireworks. They're fireworks to you, but at that time, that takes me back to Iraq. That takes me back to Afghanistan.
Leon,
but however,
Leon, I'm so sorry to cut you off. We just have 1 minute left in the show, but thank you so much for calling in. And
thank you, Leon.
Yeah, thank you, Leon. Erica, okay, we got to go. Just give people the website one more. I wish we had more time to talk to you, but give people your website one more time.
It's the reframebrain.com. The reframebrain.com. If you go to that, we've got some good episodes, some good people coming up that have overcame, that are still moving through brain injuries.
And your Twitter handle and social media.
My Twitter handle, absolutely. So on Instagram and Twitter is at the number 1 at 1 Erica Savage, at 1 Erica Savage. There's only 1 Erica Savage. And much love to Leon, Michelle, and all of those people that are brain injury champions and moving through unseen injuries.
Thank you so much, Erica. You're our champion. You speak for us all with your grace and your intelligence and your perseverance, and we're all blessed to know you. I'm Reecie Colbert. I filled in for Clay Kane. He had never really gone. We will be back. Well, he'll be back next week at his normal time. I'll be back next Thursday. Thank you all, Clay Nation. You've been wonderful with all the calls. Thank you again, Nola Haynes. This is Reecie Colbert signing off. Clay Kane Show, SiriusXM Urban View. Happy Friday, y'all.